A very good Friday evening. I am Chief Meteorologist Ed Bloodsworth with WKRG News 5. We got the latest update on what is now being classified as Tropical Depression number 4. We had some confirmation from the National Hurricane Center that according to some radar out of Cuba, that a low-level center has now formed with this large, what was an open tropical wave, and it started to become pretty apparent just based off the satellite imagery that we're starting to see at least a mid-level circulation, but now it appears with a big burst of thunderstorms near this kind of suspect area that indeed a low-level center has formed just off the south central coast of Cuba. So this has now been deemed as a tropical depression. Maximum winds are at 30 miles per hour. This is as of the 10 p.m. Friday Central Time advisory. The maximum, the movement rather, is west-northwest at 17 miles per hour. So this northwesterly turn has not happened yet. And based off of the new position, the National Hurricane Center has shifted the track. So here's what we believe will happen as we move into Saturday evening. This should emerge into the southeastern Gulf of Mexico. It is expected to quickly gain tropical storm strength, and then it begins its intensification phase as it moves up the west coast of Florida. Now, the change in this track has this entire cone, this threat cone, shifted about 75 miles west of the previous forecast track. Again, this is all based off the fact that this center has formed farther south than initially expected. And so the other interesting caveat with this is this also gives the storm more time to sit over those very warm and deep waters of the Gulf of Mexico, which means it has a longer time frame in which to strengthen. So now the forecast track has this as a strong tropical storm, borderline Category 1 hurricane prior to a landfall somewhere on the Big Bend of Florida along the Nature Coast. So this could be anywhere from Apalachicola, Florida, all the way back towards Spring Hill, Florida. So it does appear that the Tampa Bay area will actually not experience a direct landfall from this. The landfall point will likely be farther north, but keep in mind, as this moves north along the west coast of Florida, there will still be significant impacts in terms of flooding, some tropical storm force winds certainly, and some storm surge up and down Florida's west coast, extending now all the way up into the Big Bend. Again, the change came as a result of this new point where the new center has formed. That large red line is now the new NHC track, and it started to come in line with the majority of that grouping of those forecast models. Now, once this gets towards the Carolina coast, the position becomes a bit more uncertain as the steering currents are going to weaken, and that's going to mean that we could see this, at least even for a brief period of time, start to stall out, which could also exacerbate the flood situation across the Carolina coast. This would occur early through the middle part of next week. So based off the new forecast track, this is what we believe the impacts will be over the Florida Peninsula. Likely that we will see tropical storm force wind gusts at the very least, and those gusts could now extend as far west as Panama City and as far inland as maybe Albany, areas just south of Savannah. And then there could be an area of stronger tropical storm force winds, that darker brown area closer to the landfall point. And again, based off the current forecast, it would not shock me if we start talking about maybe even some hurricane watches issued for that part of the Florida coast. Also, the flood threat. Moderate flooding expected, at least the threat of moderate flooding across most of the peninsula with these consistent rain bands. And also you'll want to note that this will also mean a tornado threat up and down the Florida Peninsula. A lot of these would likely be some water spouts coming off the coast, so we're looking at really southwest Florida. But I think that threat can also extend a little bit farther inland as well, again with a storm just riding north up the west coast of Florida. And flooding could actually extend as far inland as southern Georgia and possibly into the Carolinas. The surge threat right now projecting anywhere from 2 to 4 feet of surge. This would include areas down towards Fort Myers, Port Charlotte, Sarasota, the Tampa Bay area, and especially during high tide cycles all the way up through towards Cedar Key and up towards Citrus County, Florida as well. So what does this all mean? The key takeaways from this latest update is that the storm will enter the Gulf of Mexico on Saturday. It will start its strengthening phase, quickly becoming a tropical storm. The next name on the list is Debbie. It'll get stronger as it continues to roll north over the warm waters of the Gulf in a relatively low wind shear environment, and it is still not out of the question that this could become a Category 1 hurricane prior to landfall, which is expected to happen sometime late Sunday night into early Monday morning. Now again, there will still be changes in this track. It's all going to depend on when that northwesterly turn occurs, so we could see some shifts east or west here based off of this current forecast projection. In terms of local impacts to the north central Gulf Coast, we're talking Mississippi, Alabama, northwest Florida Gulf Coast. We will see maybe some winds starting to pick up near the coast that will be coming in actually out of the north and east. But the rip current threat will start rising here. We're likely to see yellow, maybe even some red flags over the next couple of days, and perhaps the surf building up a little bit as well, but I don't anticipate any major impacts at this time for coastal Alabama, northwest Florida, or coastal Mississippi. So bottom line, there is still a lot to be determined regarding this storm, which is expected again to become Tropical Storm Debbie on Saturday. This will be the fourth named storm of the season, and typically the fourth storm of the season occurs right around August 15th, so it's a little bit early in terms of climatology. We'll keep you updated on this storm as it tracks into the Gulf of Mexico. You can find more information on WKRG.com, and through our hurricane map room you can get a latest forecast track update anytime. Also download the WKRG weather app. We'll send out updates as they come in from the National Hurricane Center.